Hello everyone, this is Kyrix, and we're here to wrap up The Walking Dead Season 2 with basically my review of what went on. Now first, I'm going to start by rehashing the fact that Walking Dead 400 Days was a complete waste of $5, and I hope that you didn't waste that money. I'm ashamed to say that I did. Not only did I had the video evidence to prove that I did. And that's not good. Walking Dead 400 Days was a complete and utter waste of money. It just cannot be said enough, because none of those characters did a goddamn thing. For one thing, 4 of the 5, and granted I only got 3 of those, I only got 3 of those remaining 4 to join Carver's establishment, but 4 of those 5 characters don't get more than a brief line in cameo, and matter of fact, it's been so long that I didn't even notice them until it was pointed out in a thing. The 4th character, or the 5th character, Bonnie, you don't really get to know her enough in the DLC. You could have literally skipped 400 Days and not missed a goddamn thing. Because I was expecting so much from 400 Days. I was basically expecting 400 Days to be a massive DLC that you could pay $10-20 for. And it would have 5 stories that each were like an hour long. They were each an episode of The Walking Dead. And, I'm looking right now. Let's play The Walking Dead Season 2, Blind, Special Bonus Episode, 400 Days. Recording time, 1 hour, 33 minutes, and 6 seconds. Yeah. I was expecting one of those 5 episodes to be that long. That whole DLC was short enough that I was able to do the whole thing in one video. Keep in mind, that hour and a half... Let me just see here. Is far shorter than any episode so far except for 5, which was Season 1 5, which was 139. Okay, Season 2 was still pretty short at just under 2 hours, but again, Season 2 also, every episode in Season 2 was still longer than 300 days. Let's see. Again, if they'd done that, if they'd done the hour per episode kind of thing, per minisode in 400 days, and let us really get to know these characters, because they literally ended right as I was getting to know these guys, and getting to care about them, and getting to like them, and all this shit. And so you didn't form attachments at all. Because how could you? By the time you were ready to form that attachment, the game was over, and it was on to the next schlub. And Bonnie, again, Bonnie's the only one who got any kind of screen time. And again, you didn't get to know her well enough in her thing. You basically saw her as this girl who was having an affair with this guy, or at least attracted to him. And she had some kind of drug issues, or she sure as hell looked like she did. Which, by the way, is how I recognized her. I'm like, wow, she looks like a complete drug addict. That must be Bonnie, you know? Not that I remembered her name at the time, but I thought that was her, because I'd seen her before. She's literally the only character I remembered. And, yeah. So, again, I want to reiterate that 400 Days was so bad that it made me do the first rehash, the Season 1 rehash, which is what started me doing endgame reviews in the first place, which is something I've stopped, because I tend to do that stuff in the credits anyway. But, I literally did an endgame review just so I could bitch more about how bad 400 Days was. And here I am at the end of Season 2, bitching more, because I kept holding out hope that, ooh, something from 400 Days is going to pay off, something's going to justify the fact that I spent $5, the fact that I played through that whole god-awful fucking waste of time. And it didn't. I missed the cameos, partly because I'd forgotten the game, but partly because they were literally only on screen for like 10 seconds or so, each. Except for Bonnie. And again, we got more characterization out of her than we did out of 400 Days, out of all of 400 Days. Also, that one black woman who was one of Carver's guards, you saw her at the end of 400 Days. I thought she looked familiar too, though I don't think I mentioned anything. She was the woman who collects the group. But, so, let's actually start discussing Season 2. Also, 400 Days sucks ass. Anyway, let's go over my choices here. Did you try to save Krista? Yeah, I could totally see myself trying to save Krista. The dog, it turned on me, but it wasn't out of malice. It was out of, quite frankly, starvation. Though, I gotta call bullshit on that simply because if it was that hungry, it wouldn't have stopped to play. It would have fucking eaten me in the thing. Looks like I did accept Nick's apology, and you know what? Seeing him in hindsight, he wasn't a bad guy. He was like Ben. He was a fuck-up, but he wasn't a fuck-up out of malice. It was just, he tried. It was kind of like Kenny. It's what happened. He was Kenny and Ben's illegitimate love child. Did I give water to the dying man? Hell no. He was a bandit. This whole thing was his fault. I'd have pissed on his corpse if I could have. Nick or Pete? I saved Pete. And I stood by that decision. Partly because Nick was fairly healthy, and I think he was across the river, so I was already there to help Pete. And the other thing being that Pete was hurt. Nick might have been able to fend for himself, but Pete was fucked if I didn't help him. I was so glad to see Clementine was the character that she survived instead of killing herself, which was a very real concern I had. And that, even though it didn't last long, Krista and Omid lived and got back with her. And, all in all, I was pretty pleased with this episode. I'm not going to bother with the ratings, because my ratings are bullshit. I don't even pay attention to them half the time. So let's move on. Next episode. Took the blame for Sarah's photo. I didn't, but only because I did it wrong. If I had known, I would have done something. I was trying to be conversational. Who did I sit with at dinner? Most people sat with Kenny. I sat with Luke's group, simply because I wanted to present a united front. And I know how abrasive Kenny is, and that would have really rubbed everyone the wrong way. Because Kenny was my friend, and he would have stuck with me. If only because of our connection with Lee, but Kenny always liked Clementine. And I stand by that decision. Told Walter the truth about Matthew. Sorry, it's very late. It's like 2:40 in the morning. Yeah, I told him the truth, and I said why in the game, and I stand by it. It is better to tell an uncomfortable truth than to lie and be caught in that lie later. Because quite frankly, Nick's fate, it's directly tied into this. I'm willing to bet that if we had lied, he'd have shot Nick. But he didn't. He forgave Nick. And it turns out that Walter would have died no matter what I did. So, left to find Kenny? Yes, because I didn't know what was going on, but Kenny and Luke could have helped us, or at least that was my thing. I didn't realize that Carver was important enough that he had plot armor on. But apparently Kenny could have shot him in the shoulder, but it would have cost Alvin his life earlier. But God, it was great to see Kenny again. Anyone who's seen my Walking Dead Season 1 thing knows that Kenny... I like Kenny. Kenny has his problems. I'm not blind to his problems. I know Kenny's an asshole. He is. He's a hothead. He's an asshole. He makes poor decisions. But he's also a loyal friend. And when you calm him down, he'll be the first to say, dude, I was a complete asshole. Thanks for talking me down, you know? He's one of those short fuse guys with a very quick burn. You know? He's not going to blow up lethally, but he's going to cause some damage. And admittedly, in Season 2, he was at his worst. Not yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But it was wonderful, even though it didn't last, to see him with I don't even remember her name, but Satria, something like that. Just the fact that they were together, that made me so happy to see that he had another chance. Because he went through hell and he deserved another chance. He's not a bad guy. He's a dick, but he's not a bad guy. And admittedly, I think if I hadn't had Kenny, this would have been a much harder thing to get through. Just having him there, just like old times, just like I was with Lee again instead of Clementine. Because Lee and Kenny were the friggin' dynamic duo. There was nothing they couldn't do. And you know what? Clementine and Kenny was a pretty close match to that. Matter of fact, if they ever came out with Walking Dead game HeroClix, I want a Lee and Kenny duo, I want a Clementine and Kenny duo. Matter of fact, I want a team base with Lee, Clementine, and Kenny. And you know what? Let's throw what's her name? Carly and Jane on there too. And that's good for me. So let's move on. Help Sarah with her chores. Yes, because quite frankly, I'm already on this guy's shit list. And it was my way of striking back at him. Because it's one thing. You ever seen the movie Down Periscope? There's this guy, Stepanek, who is the son of an admiral. He's forced into submarine duty. He wants to quit. He's not allowed to quit. So he's basically fucking up as much as he can in the hopes of getting discharged. There's a moment where there's a sub, because they're playing a war game. It's no real danger, but there's the enemy sub is trying to scan him, and they manage to fool it into going away. And the captain goes to him and says, "You know, Stepanek, you had a royal chance to just end this thing right there and go home." And Stepanek looks at him and says, "But sir, that would have screwed everybody. I'm only out to screw myself." You know. And that's the case with Sarah and her chores. It's a case of I set out that I was going to be the biggest pain in his ass and do absolutely nothing that I could not get away with not doing. If I could get away with slacking, I would. That doesn't mean I'm going to make Sarah do the same. So I did her chores for her so that she wouldn't get punished. And I took the punishment, or that was the plan. Told Bonnie about Luke. It wasn't so much that I chose to hide Luke's presence. It was that I suggested a different line. You know? And not because I thought Luke's idea was a bad one, just because letting walkers into the enclosure would get everybody killed, except us, and that was my plan. Because that's the thing, I get mean when I'm betrayed or just hounded like that. I get real mean. Now, nothing ever really comes of it. It's very rare for me to do anything, because I confuse, but I don't burn quick, you know? It takes a long time to set it up, and I usually diffuse myself before it happens. Plus, I'm pretty pragmatic, and I can weigh the things that it's usually not worth starting the shit over. But you know what? This is a post-apocalyptic video game. I'm gonna be a dick. Admitted to stealing the walkie-talkie. Yes, again, I'm not out to screw the group. Besides, I hoped it would piss him off, and Kenny took a beating for it. Watch Kenny kill Carver? You bet your ass I did. Remember, Carver was on the list. And nobody who's on the list makes it out alive. Including Carlos, who I forgot to take off the list from episode 1, where he tried to get me killed by friggin' dog fever, etc. And, Sarita, that's her name. Chopped off Sarita's arm. Yes, I did. That seems to be a thing with me, chopping off people's arms. I noticed that it happened in episode 3 as well, that or episode 4, that arms came off. But, what's his name? Reggie, the guy that I didn't like because he was a freaking collaborator with the cult man. He apparently got away with it. You could cut off the arm if you got it early enough, so I figured, well, nothing earlier than when he's still nomming her arm, and it didn't go well, but not for lack of trying. And that leads us into the next episode. Left Sarah at the trailer park. No. I can't believe so few people saved her. They just didn't make the effort, or they couldn't do it. That's fucking cold. I mean, she's a kid. I mean, yes, she's got problems too, but you know what? That doesn't mean she deserves to die. She deserves to have the chance to live. I mean, if she died, and she did, there was literally nothing I could do to save her, but later, I mean. But, you know what? She deserved to have that time, and she was making progress, and I'd like to think that if you had saved her, she could have turned into a new Clementine. But it wasn't to be. Robbed Arvo. You know what? Yes, and I stand by that. Even if it had been possible to not get into that shooting match at the end, because whether I robbed him or not, that would have happened. Just the fact that he was such a slimy little bastard and making up an obvious lie to me. Because it's bullshit, the whole, it's for my, sister, yeah, my sister's hurt and needs medicine, she cries and it draws the walkers, I give her the medicine and no, bullshit. Maybe if he'd been up front and told me why he had the medicine, might not have taken it. Fuck him. We'll get into Arvo in a minute.
Crawled through the ticket booth. Shit, Bonnie wasn't gonna make it.
Apparently, I could have made Bonnie do it, and her face had been all bruised if I had. Held the baby? Yeah, sure. Turns out it was important that Clem held that baby because she was going to be doing a lot. Shot Rebecca. Yes, because, quite frankly, we went through hell for that baby, and I didn't want him to die. And that baby brings up an important point. Kenny is a good guy. He's a dick, but he is a good man at his core. He is abrasive, he doesn't think things through, his social skills need a lot of work. I'm willing to bet before the end of the world he was much easier to get along with. But, and he does hold grudges. You know, but here's the thing. You can make the thing that, you can make the argument that he was a dick and an asshole. But I'd find it hard-pressed to make the argument that he didn't honestly believe that every single thing he tried to do, right or wrong, was for the good of whatever part of the group he felt like protecting. And when I say felt like protecting, it could make him seem like more of an asshole, but those are the people that he thinks of as his family. Because Lee, as far as he was concerned, was his brother. Clementine, his daughter. Or at least his niece, you know. Obviously, Katya and Duck were his kid, and his wife and his kid. Sarita, his other wife, or at least his girlfriend, and so on. And he felt like protecting them. And his way of protecting them was to get them to wherever he thought was safety. The problem was he was so blinded by that one glimmer of hope that he was physically incapable of seeing other options or even flaws in that glimmer of hope, that it might not be real hope, it might just be a lure. And for the record, Wellington, Kenny was right. Wellington would have been a safe haven for the children, at least. And if they had gotten to Wellington as a group, they would have at least gotten supplies before they were turned away. Not because, just because they would have been turned away because the place was over capacity. And, well, he was right. There was supplies there. There was safety there. And they, from what I understand, the kicking them out was a thing of, you go fend for yourself as long as you can, and if an opening comes in, we'll look for you. You know, or maybe you can come back and get more supplies in a month or so. But, yeah. And the baby, and I said this, the baby was Kenny's last chance to have something resembling a normal life. To give him a purpose, to give him a reason to live. Because whether you like the guy or not, and I understand, a lot of people don't. And that's fine. Whether you like him or not, you gotta admit, this guy's been through hell. And I challenge any of you to tell me honestly that if the shit that happened to Kenny happened to you, that you would have been able to hold on even that long. Then you're pretty powerful stuff. I'd like to believe I could, but... yeah. Now, I'll get into the Kenny thing in detail around the time I do the Arvo thing. Let's move on. Protected the baby. Like I said, you're damn right I protected the baby. I don't like babies. But we went through hell just so that baby could be born. I'm not going to let him die. It would have been... honestly, it would have been kinder to do that. It would have been kinder for him never to be born. It would have been kinder if the baby had been born dead like we thought at first before he started crying. Because that baby is not going to have any kind of future to look forward to. But maybe that baby's baby will have something to pass on. Who knows? Went to help Luke. Yeah, that was a mistake, but you know what? It did. I tried, and you know what? The covering thing wouldn't have worked anyway. He still would have died, but that's just how I am. Asked to leave with Mike. No. I didn't ask to leave with Mike because fuck him. I liked him too. And I had grown to like Bonnie, but you know what? Bonnie's back on the list. Mike, you're on the list. And Arvo's name is underlined. I hope they fucking died. I hope that what happened was Kenny came out, saw that Clem was shot, and unloaded in all three of them and dropped them right there in the snow. And then Jane gathered up the baby and Clem, stitched her up or bandaged her up, put her in the truck, and they hauled ass. I hope those three are fucking dead. And Arvo, oh my god, just... the only reason that I tried to get Kenny to stop hitting Arvo had nothing to do with Arvo. And everything to do with the fact that everyone would get pissy with Kenny. Quite frankly, had it been me, I'd have shot the bastard. And I find it, again, this is a flaw with Mike to me. It's one thing to be nice to him, because I tried to be nice to him when we were at the Transformer. But to side with him over everybody else in your group, and keep in mind, they didn't, I could see them leaving Kenny behind. They didn't wake up Jane, they didn't wake up Clementine. They'd have gotten away if I hadn't been woken up by that thing. So they were going to grab all the food, all the medical supplies, everything, and the vehicle, and leave Clementine, Kenny, Jane, and a baby to die. So fuck every one of them. Shot Kenny. Yes, I shot Kenny. Again, I read things on TV Tropes. A lot of people were pissed about Kenny, who switched sides to Kenny, switched sides to Jane, whatever. I didn't switch sides. I said from the start, this baby was the last chance. And I don't think that Jane killed the baby. A lot of people are like, oh, Jane killed the baby, or pretended to kill the baby, etc. You know. I didn't think she killed the baby. I honestly thought the baby froze to death out there, which, considering it was a fucking whiteout, yeah, that's a big deal. That's easy to do. That's an infant. That thing, baby's not, I don't even know if it's an infant. It's a fucking newborn. That thing couldn't have been more than a week old, if that. They cannot regulate their own temperature at that age. And if they can, they're better at it than I am. But I looked at it this way. It was... I didn't need proof. I knew Kenny would go unhinged if anything happened to that baby. And to be frank, while I was dreading it, I was also hoping that it happened. Because this is something he needed. He needed to be put down. And I use that phrase, like he's a rabid dog, because honestly, to an extent he was. He had nothing left. Even with that baby, if anything happened to that baby in the future, it would destroy his reason to live. And it would have been cruel, even if I had let him kill Jane, which I knew would happen if I hadn't done something. And he recovered the baby, he would have recovered from that, and then something could happen to unhinge him again. And even Kenny said it, you made the right choice. This was basically what he wanted. This is what he needed, and he knew this. And remember in Season 1, a couple times he tried to just give up and let it happen. And I kept talking him out of it, and you know what? There's a time when, as your friend, you just stop. It's like what Jane said. And she feels guilty, and possibly rightfully so, that she just let her sister go. And it's the same thing with Kenny, is the fact that you just gotta let him go. And who'd I end up with in the end? I ended up with Jane. Why? I stand by this. I'll tell you why. Because I know why she did what she did. She didn't have to. But then again, I don't have the option of saying to her, I already know this, that Kenny's a bit unhinged. She did this to protect Clementine, to protect the baby. She, from a pragmatic standpoint, even if I hated her guts, and I don't, she's a good person. Or at least she's trying to remember how to be a good person. Because remember, I keep insisting, and I still insist, Kenny is at heart a good person. He's just not perfect. He's far from perfect, and that's the problem. And Jane has it within her to be a good person. It's just she's been on her own so long, she's forgotten what that means, to be a good person. She's suspicious of everyone because everyone probably wants to hurt her, you know? But yeah, we went back to the place. We decided this is going to be our home, and we let that family stay. Incidentally, this is a line I have to share. I looked it up. If you turn them away, apparently the father says something along the lines of, "Are you sure that's what you want, little girl? I mean, what if we're dangerous?" And apparently Clementine just kind of looks at him and grins and says, "What if I am?" That girl's grown up. And I should be sad that she's grown up to be that cold when she has to be. But the reason that the fact that she's grown up to be that cold is the only reason she's grown up. Because the Clementine from episode 1 of season 1, if left to her own devices, would have been Sarah, or at least close to Sarah or Duck. Something between that. But she was allowed, she paid attention. And this was pointed out, and it's something I realized before it was pointed out, but it's worth pointing out again that Season 1 seemed to be the story of Lee. And you know what? If you just watch Season 1, it is the story of Lee, but it's really not if you look at this series so far as a whole. It is the story of Clementine, first told through Lee. I think TV Tropes described it as, it was a point-and-click adventure game where Lee was telling Clementine what to do. And it was also pointed out in the whole Fridge Brilliance section that when Lee dies, the game is over. But the game is about Clementine. So, or rather, when Lee dies, the game is over, except when he dies at the end of Season 5. Why does the game end? Because the game's not about Lee, it's about Clementine. And if Lee dies before Episode 5, who's going to protect Clementine? That's why it's a game over, because she's going to die soon as well. But by the end of that episode, she doesn't need him to protect her anymore, and she can go on and be her own protagonist. Now, there is a Season 3, and it will be coming out allegedly in 2015. This time around, I will not do them as they come. I will get Season 3, I will blind play Season 3, I will let's play Season 3. And I will upload Season 3. And if there are shitty little expansions in the meantime, I will do those as well. And I will probably lament, again, the loss of my $5. But, what can you do? What I'm going to do with Season 3 is I'm going to wait for all the episodes to come out, download them, and one-shot them, kind of like I did today. Maybe over 2 days, because I literally spent about 7 hours doing this shit. But, 7 straight hours of zombies with occasional bathroom and snack breaks. Which reminds me, I gotta make some real dinner. Because dinner for me today was French fries and pizza rolls. I'm gonna have some actual food now. Now, I'm rambling on, so let's get to the point. Season 2, yay or nay? I'm gonna go with yay. This was a good one. The characters weren't as good as Season 1, and Kenny... God. I'm gonna miss you, man. But, you can rest now. I got it from here. But, it ended to me on a high note. Because the ending of Season 1, Episode 5, with Lee killing Clementine, Clementine killing Lee. God, Lee killing Clementine, that would have been a whole different game, wouldn't it? Oh, boy. Clementine killing Lee after Lee was the protagonist that you've grown so attached to. It was traumatic that you did all this to keep him alive, and in the end it didn't amount to shit. You know, because he died. And he died in a horrible way that he didn't deserve. And this, something similar, because in that game, all but 3 people died. Clementine lived, well, we found out Kenny lived, and we found out, you know what, it was just Clementine, really, because we didn't find out for sure that Omid and Krista had lived until Season 2, and we didn't find out until Season 2, Episode 2, that Kenny made it out, so it looked like just Clementine was alive. This time, Jane's alive, Clementine's alive, and the baby's alive. Kenny could have lived instead of Jane, but it was basically at least Clementine and the baby, and either Jane or Kenny. And whether you ended up with them or not, whatever, but... Kenny finally reached the point where he was broken. Remember how I said, Kenny's damaged, but he's not broken? At the end of Episode 5, he was broken, and he needed to be put down. I hate having to use that word because it seems very disrespectful, but it's the truth. He needed to be put down. And as tragic as that was, because, you know, I loved Kenny. That's the thing with me, is I'm one of those people where
To damn harder to not be my friend. You have to fuck me over royally. I can think of only a handful of times in my life where I've ever just ended a friendship because of what it takes. Because loyalty is probably one of the
strongest suits I have, which is why torn loyalties hurt me so much in these games. That's half of what I'm dreading, is because it throws me into situations where I have to choose. Because on the one hand, in Season 2, Episode 2, when we found Kenny, I'm so happy. Oh God, it's Kenny. And then I'm thinking, oh God, we killed Kenny's new friend's friend. If that had just been some group without Kenny, I wouldn't have thought twice about siding with my friends and doing whatever we had to do. But because it might put me in conflict with my old friend Kenny, it hurt. It made things hard. But I got through it. So as much as it hurt me to put Kenny down, it was for the best, and everyone was in agreement. Friggin' Kenny agreed, and so did Jane, because it was her idea, basically. Well, I don't think she wanted him dead. I think the plan was for us to leave, to see how bad he was and just leave him there. But, I liked Season 2. And again, like I said, the whole thing with Kenny is he was my friend in Season 1. He was the guy who had my back. 'Cause who the fuck else had my back besides Carly? Friggin', what's his name, Larry? Fuck Larry. Larry tried to kill me. You know who came back for me? Kenny. You know what else? Even if I had just sided against him the whole game, Kenny still would have come back for me. Keep in mind, I found that old bastard's fucking medicine so that he didn't drop dead right there in the pharmacy. I could have tried to save the farmer's son and left Duck to die. I could have sided against Kenny in every single conversation we had just to spite him. And after Larry left me to die, he still would have came back and said no one gets left behind, even an asshole or whatever, you know? And that means something to me. That's what made Larry the first guy on the list, was the fact that he tried to kill me. And you know what? I got him. Well, I helped Kenny get him by holding his daughter back, but yeah. Should I be proud of that? No. Am I? Yes. You're on the list, you're gone. Just that's the way it works. And basically that was the thing, is Carly was about the only other person I would side with, and, well, Lily shot her dead, so fuck Lily. And that's what happened. Lily went on the list. Now, I know canonically she showed up in either the show or the comics, but you know what? This is the video game. I'm going to consider this a slightly separate canon. My canon is she was eaten alive by walkers as soon as we left. So, yeah.
Either way, she's out of the game. She's on the list.
Again, fucking gone. And again, Kenny, I tried, because that's the thing is, if you stick with Kenny, you are eventually rewarded for the effort. And what I mean is, no matter how mean and nasty he gets, he will eventually calm down and say, look, I was a real dick, I'm so sorry, etc. And that's the thing is, if you can get him to that point where he calms back down, and it doesn't take a lot usually, he will grudgingly, maybe, but he will go along with you. Remember this way, I never had a worry in my head that Kenny was going to take that truck and leave without us. You know who did? Bonnie and Mike. You know, the ones who were reasonable? Yeah. Oh, Kenny would have argued. Kenny threatened, oh, this is my truck, I'll take it, whatever. He didn't do it. And I don't think he was gonna. Because he would have felt like shit leaving everybody. Or at least leaving Clementine. And you know what? Even if he had left, I don't think he would have taken all the supplies. I think he would have left them some stuff. He would have taken the formula, he'd have taken some food for himself, and then he'd have gone. As opposed to Mike and company, who had everything. And fuck that Russian kid, I hope he's dead. Okay, I've rambled on and on.
So, this has been the episode follow-up, the season wrap-up,
to speak, of The Walking Dead, and this was not required viewing. If you watched it, thank you. If you didn't, I'm not going to hold it against you. Well, if you didn't, you're not hearing this, so I can say, you know what, if you didn't, fuck you! Yeah! No. If you didn't see this, I totally understand, because it's just me rambling about the game. Over a boring, still, well, semi-still picture of the rest area. Also, I love how the background changes every episode. Don't remember if Season 1 did that, but I will be back for Season 3. And I think there's DLC for this. I will be back for that. It might be a month or two, or it might happen right before Season 3. But, closing words, 400 days, waste of $5, don't waste the money, watch the LP, watch my LP, watch someone's LP, but don't waste the money yourself. You don't need it. The game will go on fine without it. So, for the last time for Season 2, I'm Kyrix, and this has been Let's Play The Walking Dead Season 2 Blind. See you next time. Bye-bye.